Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, co-editor-in-chief of Retail Insider. Joining me today is Andy O'Brien, president and CEO of GoodLeaf Farms. Thanks, Andy, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Mario.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about food security, which has been kind of a big buzzword out there in the news lately. Federal government doing a bunch of things, announcing a bunch of measures to deal with this. Tell me, what food security really is all about, and is it really a domestic production challenge more than anything?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say food security is all about being able to, in our case, in the kind of the produce world, be able to have access to healthy produce 365 days a year in Canada. And as you know, in Canada, we have some pretty dramatic swings in our temperature throughout the year where we can go from, I've been in Calgary when it's 35 degrees and minus 35 degrees. That's a
Yeah.
70-point swing, right? So very difficult to grow, produce outdoors or in a greenhouse when it's that cold. And as a result, we have for a very long time uh, been very dependent upon, other countries, particularly U.S. and Mexico, for a number of our crops, whether it be lettuce to other vegetables to, avocados, whatever it might be. Um, and I think now, what's gone on over the last year or two, with some of the challenges that we're seeing with, the political environment or some of the challenges that we're seeing with, just climate changes, it's really important that we as Canadians, control our own destiny and develop a food program that works for us.
Mhm. Now, it's not cheap to run a farm like what you folks are doing. Is- uh, you know, uh, are, can you give me some sort of sense of the costs that are involved in establishing and then operating of a farm, like what you folks do?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Part of the challenge with really creating and establishing a Canadian kind of food security system is that the cost to entry are really high. The cost to maintain it going forward are pretty standard manufacturing costs, people, electricity, inputs and stuff like that. But, for example, GoodLeaf, we are the largest indoor growing company. In Canada. We're the only ones that can really supply a 365 day food program to everybody in Canada, coast to coast, as we call it. We built a farm in Guelph, we built a farm in Calgary, and we built a farm in Montreal. Totally, it probably costs about 200 million to build these farms, so it's not cheap. And at the end of the day, it is a business, and we want to be able to do what's right for Canadian consumers, but we also have to sell through our Canadian customers, and our investors are looking for a return on their dollars. So I would say the biggest challenge that we have in this industry is startup costs. So the most recent announcement by Mark Carney, where they're going to deploy, call it $750 million into this sector to help accelerate the development of, an ag business that's going to be, sustainable 365 days a year was very welcome news.
Yeah. And that government investment is crucially needed, right, in the industry?
It's really needed, Mario. Like the reality is, like I said, we're the only one that can do this nationally. In fact, I think we're the largest one in North America. I haven't seen anybody that's bigger than us in terms of an indoor vertical farming company doing what we do. And yeah, we've already had significant, assistance from the government over the course of the last 15, 18 months. Um, Particularly Farm Credit Canada. They've been an amazing partner for GoodLeaf. But yeah, it's challenging to get a startup. So if you want other players to be, involved in helping Canada develop a food security program, there's going to be assistance needed on the startup cost.
Tell me what you're seeing these days, Andy, when it comes to consumer demand.
That's another really good question. So I've been in the food business now for over 30 years, and I've worked on a number of different categories from cereals to juices to chocolate to pet food. Um, I've never seen over the last year the level of Canadian sentiment the way it is now. There is a very strong, current of people wanting to support to buy Canadian-based products. So I would say our demand right now far outstrips our ability to meet supply. So we are not able to meet the demand, which is a good thing, but we're definitely need more investment into our farms to increase our capacity to meet the demand because the demand is very strong.
Yeah. Besides the Canadian sentiment of things, what about in terms of the eating habits of people and healthy eating habits? Is that grown and contributed to the rising demand?
Absolutely. So. Like I mentioned, I've been involved in the food business for a long time and studied a lot of Canadian food habits, and we all want to support, a sustainable, pesticide-free, lower footprint kind of business. But at the end of the day, it's got to taste good, it's got to give me the nutrition, and it's got to be good value. So I would say that Canadian consumers are among the most savvy in the world, and they're not going to buy, a lettuce or a microgreen just because it's Canadian grown. They're going to buy it because it also delivers on the benefits of longer shelf life, better tasting, and higher nutrition. So yeah, and then Canadians use GoodLeaf produce for lots of different applications, whether it be in recipes, whether it be on egg sandwiches, whether it be top on a salmon. It's not just salads. So there's a lot of use, and as a world right now, let alone just Canadian, we are all eating healthier. We're all looking for more nutrition, and Canadian consumers are no different.
What are your sales annually?
So right now, our sales are about 50 million. So I consider us a very decent size, kind of medium-sized business in Canada. Um, but we're growing double every year. So my expectation will be that, sometime in 27, we will top the $100 million level, provided we can meet the demand from our customers to be able to supply them with the product that they're asking for.
Okay, then. Any, and one from your company perspective, any thoughts in the future of expanding in terms of adding another facility somewhere?
Well, yes, there's two things. One is we are adding significant, so we're right now just finalizing our plans to invest north of $25 million into our farms to increase our capacity. So that's the first step, which is let's make sure that the four walls that we have in each one of these facilities can do the maximum they can do. And we think there's more growth we can get out of our existing farms. In both Calgary and Montreal, we bought enough land to make another 14 to 17 farms between the two different locations. So we have a lot of growth expansion capabilities, which we plan to start, doing in starting in 2027.
Now, I'm curious, typically, what's the size of one of the farms?
So Calgary and Montreal are identical farms. They're 115,000 square feet each, but they also have like 10 stories because it's indoor growing. So I think about it as a uh, half the size of an Amazon plant. If you see those on the highway, so they're pretty big. And when you go inside, they're pretty special. What the whole idea of indoor farming is that you optimize the growing environment. We call it light, air, water. So the right amount of light, right kind of light for the right amount of time. So plants sleep at nighttime. So we do that. The right amount of water. So we ensure that there's not too much rain or not enough rain. We get just the right level of rain with the perfect air, which means the perfect temperature.
Okay, so I'm curious about something. Because you're in a controlled environment, and um, in say take I don't know, take spinach or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. How many different crops could you have in a year?
Well, you mean almost like so let me give you an example. So our crisp lettuce,
Yeah.
as an example, if you were to grow that in open field, it's going to take you between 60 and 70 days to grow. Keeping in mind, you can probably only do it 2 or 3 times in Canada, right? So during the year, we can grow the same amount of lettuce in 15 days. So then when you go through and we can grow it every day, so we can do a lot more growing cycles than you can in open field. Microgreens, even a better story. They really have a hard time growing in open fields, but we can grow a microgreens plant in 6 days.
Wow.
So you think about over the course of 365 days, that's a lot of turns.
Yeah. Okay, then. Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks, Andy, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, that was Andy O'Brien, President and CEO of GoodLeaf Farms. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, co-editor in chief of Retail Insider. Thanks for joining us today.